going, folks? Welcome to the Riffing with Joseph podcast. Another balmy day in Kuala Lumpur. So the last podcast I talked about was the people-pleasing thing. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about, but I've forgotten already. But a couple of interesting things came up with the people-pleasing. So I was talking about this concept, what would it be like if I was kind of true to myself with everything I did, rather than some of the time in my life I have this thing where I just feel like, I should do this or should do that. And it's not, I don't do anything really bad, but I'll often do things that I don't really want to do. And I just thought to myself, I wonder if a truer version of me exists when I really listen to that. And it's quite funny. Often it's the case, I'll talk about stuff that's on my mind and I'll see it play out either with me or somebody else close by. So I kind of get a representation of something that I'm thinking about or pondering, and I'll see the manifestation of it as I'm talking about it. And so I noticed this, a situation with one of my friends is happening, and I'm just watching that play out, and there's parts of it I can definitely relate to. And one of the things I think is that when you do start to do, to listen closer to how you feel and what's right for you, and I mentioned this on the podcast, that what can happen is that there'll be a sense of freedom that will come from that because you're being more your true self. But it's interesting because you'll also be challenged a bit as well, because, and this is what I noticed, you can be challenged because the world, your old reality, is wanting you to stick to that version of you. And one of the things I realized is that there's a version of you that other people are comfortable with, and there can be a bunch of unwritten rules. You're supposed to do this, this, and this. And because, you're a nice guy or whatever, or, girl or whatever the situation is, you're meant to behave in this particular way. And if you don't, then it causes some chaos. And so when you're going through this, you might think, fuck this. It's not worth it. But I think that's kind of part of the cleansing process of it. Part of the process of, no, we need to go through those things to come out the other side to really get more authentic relationships. Because anyone in my life, when it comes down to it, I think, if they don't want to hang with me, I can't force them. I shouldn't even think they should. Sometimes I natter a fuckload on the phone, and it's almost like a nervous thing or whatever. But I always just, in this, small amount of friends I do that with, but I always just have the view that, if that's too much for people, they should just do what they got to do. You know what I mean? You don't own anyone. And I think my experience has been, anytime I people please, it always backfires. Every single time, the other person ends up getting pissed off at you. You're pissed off. You always have a bad outcome. So one of the things I noticed during this period, of last week or whatever, is that, you do that stuff that's right for you, and there will be a consequence. People won't like that version of you, so, but if that version of you is true, really what other choice do you have? And as I said, part of it is this unspoken agreements, subconsciously expected from other people, that you need to do this, this, and this. And, they might be used to someone, who's quasi a doormat, or who's quasi just does what other people want, even though it's not really aligned. And so what I'd say is, if this is something you're going through, is like, understand that if by implementing these changes there is some sort of chaos that results, that doesn't mean you're off track necessarily. So there should be a greater sense of freedom with that though. There should be a sense of, oh, okay, there's some conflict, there's some stuff, this is stirred up stuff, but I actually feel more free. And the other thing is, you actually let go of resentment that you have for the person or people involved, because when you people please, you do it with resentment because you don't want to do it. And so you actually let go of the negative energy you have with that person, even though the growing pains of it is, it can be conflict or whatever. And I think the bottom line of it, this is what I sort of feel. The bottom line of it is approval. So some of it is an empathy thing where you feel other people's emotions and, there's an empathy aspect to it. So it's not all selfish, but there's an aspect to it where really you want approval from other people and you don't want to rock the boat. And you not wanting to rock the boat with somebody else is sometimes how you are with you, because you don't want to rock the boat with yourself and you don't want to rock the boat with someone else. But by doing this, you actually liberate yourself, because you actually show to yourself, it's not that big a deal. If we rock the boat a bit, I'm just doing what feels right. And you kind of prove to yourself and to anyone around you that, no, I'm actually going to do what's right regardless of the outcome. You know what I mean? Like, what I feel is right, kind of thing. So that was kind of what I realised, I guess. This is the short take-home message that I sort of thought about. And as I said, I watched this play out somewhat in my life, and I was watching a parallel situation with another friend of mine. And this is the thing that binds us in the old reality. Just hang on a sec. This is the thing that binds us in the old reality, because we don't like to have this conflict. But by doing it, you can show yourself that the conflict is not that big a problem. Like, we don't all have to behave like children in the situation, thinking that they have to do things as we want, we have to do things as they want, whatever the case may be. Like, it kind of is a way to demonstrate that you're more than the pettiness of the situation, and you don't need the approval. And look, it's sometimes the case, and I've had this happen as well, where these things will disintegrate friendships. But if it was that conditional, how much of a friendship was it? And the other thing is that every time that you compromise and do this, what you do is you sell a piece of your soul. And it's like you're proving to yourself you're not worthy of what you know to be right. You're proving to yourself that this thing that you're avoiding is much bigger than it is. And also you're proving to yourself that you don't have value. And as long as you're tethered to that kind of thing to avoid conflict, that tethers you away from a reality where people actually value you higher. You value yourself higher, and you value you higher. So it locks you into a different reality by not addressing it. And in the end, it doesn't matter, because I've had these situations happen and they say, fuck you, and they're out of there. And you feel better anyway. Like, you feel more liberated because you weren't being true to yourself, And it would have been fine if there wasn't that reaction, but you had come into the situation, not being fully free. And so you created a relationship where you're controllable, but you'd kind of set these rules anyway. Like you'd created this kind of thing. So I think that's all I wanted to say. It's started to rain now, so I might just do a little bit of a quick meditation. Hopefully we don't get too wet. You can have a bit of a picture of the sky. So if you just now, as I said, every situation needs reflection. Otherwise, it's just words. And what my hope would be is that every time I do one of these, a piece of your non-truth falls away. And so just breathing in and asking yourself, who is it that I pretend to? And who is it that I kind of tell little white lies to? Or I'm not fully myself? And can I let go of feeling like I need their approval? And can I give myself approval regardless of them? And so can I give a bit more approval to myself? And just acknowledging to yourself, you respect yourself. I respect you. I appreciate you. I'm proud of you. You don't need to chase this over here. I appreciate you. I respect you. And then notice how, as you say that, the longing dissipates. The yearning to be approved of. And then it becomes okay. Do you notice how the truth sets you free? And notice how your mind goes quiet and your body goes still. And anywhere in your life where you feel you're not being true, if you want, at a later point, you can decide to gradually let go of that in whatever way you want. The only thing that matters, really, is making a start. Making a start on the situation. And allowing it to be okay if people don't approve of you. Allowing it to be okay if people don't get it. Because you get it. And you can say to yourself, I understand you. I appreciate you. And notice how the mind goes quiet. And notice how by you not looking for approval, you actually feel more approval. And anytime you feel the mind start to get busy, just notice, what's the mind trying to get? What's the mind trying to obtain? What's it trying to solve? What's it looking for? And you can give it that without looking for it in the world. And then you'll notice in your body that you're on track, because the body starts to go quiet. The mind starts to go quiet. And then you feel real self-esteem instead of just approval, which is the opposite of real self-esteem. And so just as you're breathing, just let it take this feeling into your day. Or into your night, whatever the case may be. Stay with it and let it be with you. And if you need to come back to those questions, what's the approval I'm trying, if your mind goes busy again, what's the approval I'm trying to get? What's the approval I'm trying to seek? And then come back to letting go of whatever you're trying to seek and coming back to giving it. So stay with the breath and that quiet and just let that stay with you.